Okay. Next question from Rob at It's My Midlife Crisis. This guy's hilarious. I'm going to read this whole question because it has certain parts of it that I think can contribute to my answer later. Bodybuilders and cardio, why the phobia? Wouldn't superior conditioning carry over to a 5x8 squat session? I don't see it as just for fat loss. I'm on my way out the door to run 5 very hilly miles and doubt a non-running lifter could keep up as it's different in my estimation. Okay. For one, it's not a phobia, but the adaptation that occurs during cardio, especially for like 5 miles, is very different from the adaptation that happens when you do 5 sets of 3 on squats. And the adaptation that happens when you do that cardio like that can interfere, and there's a lot of research showing this. It can interfere with the adaptation that occurs from the training session, the squat training session. So with long distance running like that, the adaptation occurs mostly in slow twitch fibers, type 1. And then for squats, any type of strength training, the adaptation is going to occur mostly in fast twitch muscle fibers, type 2. So doing that much cardio is just going to make your lifting suffer and isn't necessarily going to help you get leaner. It just helps your conditioning. I would say that running that far might carry over to a 5x8 squat session, but you're going to be using a lot less weight. You might not get as winded, but you're not going to be as strong. So it's just, they don't work together. You can't focus on both of those. And you're right, I could not run 5 very hilly miles with you. You would leave me behind, for sure. And then the whole setting up of your macros, the basic is how you get your numbers, and the enormous discipline that goes into dieting down to get contest ready fascinates the shit out of me. How long can you zero in cheat free? Seems that if you don't have that down, nothing else will matter. And I kind of answered the part about setting up my macros, and I did leave out a little bit. I didn't say how I adjust them, and I just base it on weight loss. Usually it takes very small adjustments to make weight loss continue. So even though 3,500 calories is supposed to equal a pound of fat, sometimes you can drop 60 calories and really accelerate fat loss. So usually I drop from carbs, and it's going to be between 10 and 25 grams of carbs, and then occasionally I'll drop 2 to 5 grams of fat. Protein is typically going to stay the same, and these are typically weekly adjustments until maybe the last 4 weeks of prep, and then they'll be a little bit more frequent. As far as the discipline, I'm not sure how to answer it. It's just, you have to really want to do it, and if you don't, then it's not going to happen. The mirror can keep you motivated for sure, but zeroing in cheat free, like I said, you just have to really want to do it. That's all I can say about that. Alright, next few questions from Alves Mondaras. I'm sorry if I butchered your name. Some of these are pretty funny. Why do they call them apartments when they're really togethernments? I think it's because people don't want to live with strangers, and togethernments just isn't a very attractive word. Why do you call them cookies when you bake them? Why not bakies? I think it's just preference. You can call them bakies if you want. And then the next part of this is, he just says he's interested in my gym, maybe a tour, and how much I pay. Haven't given a tour yet. It's a really small gym, and it's crowded with equipment, not with people. It's typically not that busy. When I go, I usually go at about lunchtime. But it's $34 a month, and I think it's well worth it. It's a good gym with all the equipment I need. And I'll try to give you guys a little bit more of a tour later. Next question from Javon Elliott, maybe Jevon Elliott. Why do you squat in flat shoes versus ollie shoes, Olympic shoes, raised heel? I talked about this a little bit earlier, but I've never had issues with ankle flexibility, and I hit depth pretty easily. So I've never really seen a reason to switch. I'm comfortable in flat shoes, and that's all I can really say. I've just never seen a reason to switch to Olympic shoes. But I will say that Johnny Candido, Mike M, and I think Josh, combat veteran lifter, all have videos on this. So those videos may have been what prompted this question, but if they're not, go ahead and check those videos out. Next question from Mike M, who I just mentioned. How old are you? 23. I already answered this in the previous video, but that's okay. How long have you been training? Answered that too. Next one, what line of work do you do? Right now I'm a personal trainer, but for the last year, from about June 2012 through July of this year, 2013, my primary source of income was actually playing music. I play acoustic guitar and sing, and I played in bars weekly, sometimes multiple times per week. I play a lot of weddings and wedding receptions. I've played private parties, and I still kind of feel like that's what I'm doing, even though I'm not doing it quite as regularly right now. I've just been really busy with work as a personal trainer and have pretty demanding hours, so I haven't been doing that as much. And places aren't really booking as much during the winter time, especially with football and everything. So I expect to get more busy with that around March or April in the springtime. But right now, my primary source of income is personal training, and then as it gets into the right season, it tends to shift towards music. And the next part, what do you think you like more, bodybuilding or powerlifting? Definitely powerlifting, for sure. It's just more fun. Like I said earlier, you can set tangible goals, and in bodybuilding you can't. And really, my genetics for bodybuilding aren't that good. I'm kind of blocky, have a pretty big waist even when I'm at 3 to 4% body fat, and my upper body will never match my lower body. And I'm aware of those things. So, powerlifting for sure. Okay, last question from Bharat Brahmani. Although your training style looks geared towards strength, you are one of the most aesthetic guys on YouTube. So is nutrition the key to aesthetics? My last answer, I kind of listed the reasons that I am not that aesthetic. I appreciate the compliment. I completely disagree, but I appreciate it. Is nutrition the key? It is definitely a part of it, but training can definitely contribute as well. Training can be pretty simple. As long as you're progressing in your training and your strength, usually genetics are going to be the main thing that contribute to the way your shape is. So I would say training, genetics, and nutrition. Obviously, you're going to be able to show off your aesthetics more if you're leaner, so nutrition is going to be the best way to show them off. But I'd say just following a program with progressive overload and genetics are probably the main two things. Alright, that's it for this Q&A. Thank you guys for asking questions. I appreciate the feedback and the support. I'll talk to you in the next video. Okay, one more question for the Q&A that I just got from Harry at Bodybuilding Bros. When did you start lifting, and what do you think are the strong points and weak points in your physique? I mentioned earlier that I started lifting in high school for football. Strong points, my quads are my biggest strong point. I think anybody can agree with me there. I apologize for the dogs barking. My quads, I think my chest is one of my better body parts. My calves are okay. Weak points, biggest one is definitely my lats and my back. And I mentioned this in almost every Lazy Boy Shrinking episode. They just don't spread very much. I've actually built them up quite a bit as far as thickness. They just have a really weird shape and don't spread like I'd like them to. My shoulders and biceps are a little bit of a weak point too. They've improved, but they're still not great. And then my obliques, they just don't have very much development, it seems. I have a pretty blocky waist and feel that my oblique strength is probably one of my strong points. But as far as the way they look, they're a weak point. I think that covers most of it. Alright, thanks again guys.